Hello, everyone, and welcome to my preview of the 2021 G1 Climax, the G1 Climax 31, as it has been quite the year for New Japan, and it's been quite the time here. We're having the G1 in September. It's gonna finish the week of my birthday, which is crazy to think about. As someone who's used to this being done by August, and here we are in September, and it's just now starting. I cannot wait for us to be back into the normal schedule of things, just so I'm kind of back into the normal groove of watching. So just before we get into the actual predictions and whatnot, we gotta run through what's going on. So Block A, we got Kodabushi, Toru Yano, Tamarishi, Yujiro Takahashi, Tetsuya Naito, Zack Saber Jr., Kenta, Grado, Tongaloa, and Shingo Takagi, of course, heavyweight champion. As Block B, it's Tama Tonga, Taichi, Yoshiyashi, Jeff Cobb, Hiroki Goto, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Sanada, Evil, and Chase Owens. So yeah, I mean, that group of guys, those 20 names there. Think if I had to think of what I thought of as far as going into the G1 Climax, the only surprising thing really is probably God. I just didn't think they would be in it. But at the same time, really the only person that was like realistically thinking like maybe he'll be in it was Hiromu. And I guess they're going to try to do the G1 after. Or they're going to do, rather, the Best Super Junior after this G1. So I thought at least they were going to do what they did last year and have it be with the World Tag League. Just kind of kill two birds with one stone type of thing. But I guess they're going away from that. And they're going to try to have it like be its own tour. At least from what I've been hearing in the rumblings of the schedule and whatnot. Which, granted, I can see why they didn't put Hiromu in it. Obviously, he's the junior champion. Usually, juniors don't come up for the G1 Climax. It's very rare. Usually, when it does happen, obviously, it's back to where they would do the Best Super Junior first, then the G1. And if you are one of those people that were in both the Best Super Juniors and the G1 that same year, that is a very, very, very tough schedule. Let alone for someone who's just coming back from an injury and a guy who has had his history with injury, so you really don't want to have him be injured again because of the doing two tenacious fucking tours. And I mean that this is a tough ass tour, as everybody would suggest. I mean everybody knows it. It's the hardest tour out of I would say any any schedule in New Japan, or not in just in New Japan, just in Japan, Japanese pro wrestling in general. I mean, now with Noah's N1 Victory, obviously that tour is a lot smaller now, and it's a lot more dense. All Japan's Champion Carnival, they don't have that many people compared to what they have here, and obviously it's a lot longer of a tour compared to the Champion Carnival as well. I mean, it is fucking tough, and, that's always when I'm just like, if they don't want to put a guy in because he's probably going to get hurt, fair fucks to him. I think what's kind of shitty about this G1 is I knew going in that there was not going to be like a big name. They weren't going to do anything crazy with it. And that's a combination of obviously the times that we're in. Still very, if someone travels from the US to here, they would have to quarantine 14 days. They just weren't going to be able to do it. So that's why there's nobody there. But also, just knowing that New Japan, I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of people they have signed from another promotion. Like, it's just very, very, very rare now. Even for something like a Champion Carnival, the only time an outsider, quote unquote, has been in the G1 was when, in 2016, when they had Nakajima and Marufuji in it because of their relationship with Pro Wrestling at the time, which was awesome because we got to see obviously Marufuji and Nakajima in the G1, but Marufuji's matches with Okada, which led into the King of Pro Wrestling match too. And you'd think they would have been like, that was awesome back then, maybe we should do that again for somebody, but also kind of thinking of what's going on. Obviously, you can't do anybody from Pro Wrestling Noah because, well, they're fucking, they're doing their N1 victory, so you can't have anybody from there. I guess you could have brought in Marufuji as the G8 Heavyweight Champion. That'd been fucking crazy. Plus, also, too, New Japan doesn't have, like, a great relationship with anybody else in Japan right now. So, And, just was kind of like, of course they're not going to bring in like a Yujiro, or not a like they're not going to bring in a Yuji Hino or a Yujiro Kobayashi, Daisuke Sakamoto. Like they're not going to bring in those guys. It was crazy they brought in Daisuke for that Lions Break show that they did. Even then, it was like, oh, maybe they'll bring him in for like a G1 or something. It's like, no, it was just a one-off thing. And is that like kind of on the wrestler's point of view? Is that on the actual company's point of view of them not even trying to reach out to anybody? It's a whole double-edged. I think really, New Japan as a whole, they are very loyal to their guys, and I think that's why they gave God this spot in the G1 here. I mean, here's the thing. Sure, is this G1? There's no surprises as far as participants or names really from the States. Obviously, they've kind of split some of the guys. That Jay White, I think, is probably the biggest name that's not in this besides Ospreay, but I'm not gonna count him. But yeah, definitely Jay White's the biggest name. Suzuki hasn't been in a G1 in a couple of years now. I remember he had an interview where he said just his body can't do it anymore. And that's the thing, like, you can't, like, there's some people that have retired from the G1 that have, like, actually stayed it, and there's obviously people that just, I mean, that is a brutal fucking tour, and there's really, like, the old guard can't do this tour. Yeah, that just kind of is what it is there, so a lot of people could probably say, well, if you can't do it right, maybe you shouldn't even do it at all, and I could see that point of view, but, I mean, the last time a G1 hasn't happened was 1990, I want to say, and it was even before the G1. It was the World Tag League, or not the World Tag League, the World League, or whatever it was called. Off the top of my head, I'm blanking on what it was called before the G1 Climax, but yeah, just kind of as a whole, just a synopsis of what's going on with New Japan. I know there was a lot of people were upset with the G1 Climax blocks and kind of the participants and whatnot. I just in that same boat because I knew going in that they won't. So I didn't get my hopes up to begin with. If you were someone that got their hopes up about somebody from like the States or somebody else from another company, it's kind of like, yeah, that's not happening. Like, sure, in an awesome world where they could have gotten someone from All Japan, one or two guys, and have them split the block, have one guy in block A, one guy in block B instead of God. Fuck yeah. Yeah, that would have been great. But, I'm trying to think the last time, obviously the last time they worked together was the All Together show. And, I can't remember the last time, even before then, that All Japan and New Japan kind of had like a pretty solid relationship. It just ain't happening. It sucks because I think AEW has shown the wrestling fans who were used to how the things were going because of WWE and just kind of how it was very much this is WWE only. We only care about this brand and these people are only going to be used on this show. But now we're seeing that we can bring guys over from here, we can bring guys over from here and here, and then, like how when everyone's working together, you're going to create a much better product than you just keeping it to yourself. Because you're adding in new, fresh matchups and new elements to things. It just makes sense from that perspective. But at the same time, I know that they'll never change their ways, at least until something very fucking drastic happens. But I think as long as Geto's in charge, and Geto has really never had that relationship with any other companies, he's been the booker, so he's probably just like, hey, I'm doing okay not having any relationship, even though now someone should be telling them, hey, we're coming down, we're not climbing anymore as far as popularity and company kind of growth, and we're starting to go down. We're becoming oversaturated. You gotta start cutting down shit and changing things up. But here we are. It's the 31st G1 Climax, and it's gonna start on the 18th, and it's gonna end, I want to say, on the 20th, off the top of my head. I don't want to scroll all the way through to remember. We'll get there. We'll talk about that and so much more. As this first show, the first two shows for Blocks A and B are in Osaka, the 18th and 19th. So we're going to just start off Kodabushi, Yujiro Takahashi. That's a layup for Bushi there. Because it's the first night, sometimes you don't want to just assume everything's a layup. But, I mean, I would be dumbfounded if Yujiro beats him. That'd be fucking crazy. yeah, I mean, I just so I understand having a upset on the first night, but that's just too crazy. Grado Khan and Tongalo is the next match. Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting Grado Khan to have a pretty good G1. He's in a block where I think he can finish with 8 or 10 points, no problem. Just because I think he can beat guys like Tongaloa, he can beat guys like Yujiro, probably beat Yano, and right there's 6 right there. So then he's just got to beat either Bushi, Ishii, Naito, Zack Saber Jr., Kenta, or even Shingo. And just right there, you'll have a pretty solid G1 just with those 6 points. But to have an 8 or 10 in your first one, that's very, very huge. I'm very, very excited for some of those matches he's got, because obviously a lot of them are going to be fresh and new matches. But yeah, this Tongaloa one, if he could somehow pull out a good match with him, which I don't think Tongaloa is not talented or anything. I just think I mean, I can't remember how. I could probably count on one hand the amount of singles matches he's had in New Japan. Like, it's just, this is a huge, huge, huge step for him, and it's a huge step for both him and Tama, who's getting back into the swing of things. I think his last G1 was 2016. I want to say 2018. That's right, 2018, and now that's a long time, and he's definitely kind of, I would say, to get into the swing of things of singles matches and whatnot. It takes a lot out of you. You're gonna get blown up, and luckily, I think for both guys, their matches are gonna be around 8 to 12, so shouldn't be too bad on them. But still, still tough. When you're used to working tag matches to where maybe it's a 10, 12, 14-minute match, but you're only working for like 3 or 5 of that. So we'll see how they do. I'm expecting nothing from them, but who knows? Lance Archer changed the way I think the world viewed him, and it changed the way certainly I viewed him for this G1 performance. I don't think someone's going to have that level of a performance, at least in a long time, but who knows? Never say never. Ziano and Kinta, here's the upset. I think it's going to be an upset for Yano here. Yano's just kind of in the perfect spot for it. Just makes sense. You always have one type of upset. And all of these matches, I think this one just makes the most sense to do it in, so might as well just predict it as Yano and Kinta. I mean, obviously, it's a Toru Yano match. It's going to be 3-5 minutes. Gives those guys in Block A break on that night. He's, honestly, it's kind of funny to say this, but he's really like the perfect G1 guy to have, because he can give your guys a break to where you can get them through that tournament, and where they don't have to worry about getting injured or getting killed out there. You just have a fun little match with Yano that's going to end in anywhere between seconds to minutes. Just a fun change of pace match too, because it's something different. Tetsuya Naito and Zack Saber Jr. as the co-main. I think this could be a main event any other night, but because of what's going on last, definitely makes sense as the co-main. So they've had 6 one-on-one matches against each other. Naito's won 4 of them, Zack's won 2 of them, and those 2 came in the same year. Naito's won the previous 3 matches, and Naito's 2-1 against him in G1s. So, I mean, it's been a long-ass time since Zack's beaten him. I think this is the perfect opportunity to have him win here. Obviously, Zack, this is a huge, I wouldn't say huge, this is just a very telling G1, I think. Ever since 2018, which was the mega push for Zack in that year, winning the cup and doing some good stuff throughout that year, hasn't really been as hot. Definitely, honestly, I don't know if it's because Taka's not with him and Geto just doesn't give a shit about him as much compared to when Taka was with him and they kind of had their own gimmick going. And because I think Suzuki Gun as a whole is kind of cooling off, especially compared to everybody else, stable-wise. Just because Suzuki's not able to be the leader that some of these other guys are because of his age, and because obviously he's not going to be able to be in like these G1s anymore or whatnot. So, I mean, this is a very telling G1 for him as far as, are they going to put him back at the level that he was and elevate him to where he finishes with 10 points or more? I'm assuming it'll be around 10. Or it's going to be like an 8, point performance for him where he's going to win some, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be just a step below the guys of, the top guys of like Naito's and Shingo's and Ishis and whatnot, and a Bushi too, with Bushi in there, obviously. It's very, very telling G1. I think this would be a great win for him. Because if all else fails and he does end up having only 8 points or something, at least he's got this to where he's like, hey, fucking beat Naito type of deal. And he's beaten him in the past, so it's not like it's that big of a leap as well. As Tamarishi versus Shingo Takagi is the main event. And obviously the champion coming into it, Shingo Takagi. They've had 3 one-on-one matches. Shingo's up 2-1. Ishii beat him last year in the G1. This is the first time they've wrestled against each other one-on-one on Osaka. Just a little fun fact. For these two men, obviously they blend so well together. They have that no open weight, styles, I like to call it, but just beefy boys beating the shit out of each other, and it's going to be great. Really, if Ishii didn't beat him last year, I would have been like, this has been a fun type of upset there, but he beat him last year. Obviously, whoever beats Shingo is going to go on to have future title matches too with him, so you're kind of thinking from that perspective. They could have a fun match, but at the end of the day, Ishii's done that before, and really, for this, I just have Shingo win. I think it might as well have a fun match with Shingo winning and keeping his dominance, because he's had a great year. Keep it up, and he's going to have, I think, a great G1, especially in that block. You have a lot of great guys that really blend well with him. So, it should be very, very fun, and it's a great way to kick off that block as well with a Shingo win, I think, and just kind of telling the story of how that block's going to go, because I think, personally, this is the year where the champion makes it to the finals, maybe even wins it. It hasn't happened since 2000 with Kensuke Sasaki, and the last champion to actually make it to the finals was Nagata in 07. So it's been a long-ass time, and plus, they now have added an extra fucking night to Wrestle Kingdom. Like, they need any more fucking nights. So now you can have that perspective. I think what they're going to do is either Shingo's going to win, or Shingo is going to make it to the finals and lose to, obviously, whoever wins Block B. However that happens, I think he's going to retain either night 1 or night 2, whenever night they do it. But they're going to want to do Shingo Ospreay at the Dome. That's what they're planning on. You can see it coming from a mile away. Just with this whole, with what he's doing in the States with the real world champion shit that he's doing. I think that's the match they're going to put together, and that's the match they're going to do. I don't know if it's going to be on the third night, the second night, who fucking knows. But I just got a feeling that's what we're going to go with, I think, personally. Because I think either Ospreay's going to beat him on night 2, which I think would be wild, and would definitely be a mistake because he's a piece of shit, but just that would be crazy. But then what do you do? Obviously now on that third night, would you have someone that has been with him throughout the States, someone like a Jay White? Who knows what they'll do there. But just as far as how Shingo's going to go with this G1, I think he'll be the first champion since Yuji Nagata in 2007 to make it to the finals, and maybe he'll be the first winner to also be the IWGP Heavyweight Champion since Kensuke Sasaki in 2000. Would be very, very awesome. Would be very, very awesome. He can also challenge Ospreay after winning it, just to be like, hey, there's some guy out there thinking he's the real champion because I didn't beat him. I'll beat him, Wrestle Kingdom. That's a type of thing. It's just an easy little story there, and I think that's the first time where I think a champion winning can actually call out somebody, and it makes so much sense. Might as well take that opportunity and do it. And also, it's a fresh idea, because it hasn't been done since they've done the briefcase gimmick, having the champion win, so might as well. It's the same thing when Jay White beat Ibushi for the briefcase. It was like, well, it hasn't been done yet. This would be a great thing, and that's time to scratch that off, and might as well do something new at the same time. So the first night of Block B, we got Yoshihashi and Evil kicking it off. Oof. Oof. So I got an upset for Yoshihashi here. Just that I think it'd be fun, and plus fuck Evil type of deal there. That match, that's going to be like pulling teeth watching that. I'm not looking forward to that at all. Jeff Cobb and Chase Owens the next match. Hopefully Jeff Cobb has a great G1. I'm hoping he has an 8 to 10 point night, for him, and hopefully by the end of that G1 he's getting some big wins too. Because there's some big names, still. Not as big as Block A. Definitely Block B is carried by Okada, Tanashi, and I want to say Goto too. But but you have great kind of guys just underneath that kind of high level guy like a Sonata and Tai Chi. I love throwing Tai Chi in there, and Jeff Cobb too. But there's a lot more like mediocrity compared to Block A, I think. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting, very very interesting as far as how these two blocks play out. But Sonata and Tamatanga the next match, I feel like it's gonna be an easy one, but also could see an upset too at the same time. This could be an upset for Tamatanga here, or Sonata win either way. I'm pretty much okay with. Obviously, it's the first night, so anything can happen, and anybody can make up for what they've lost. It's still very very early in the tournament. As the co-main event, Hiroki, Goto, and Taichi, no strangers to each other. These two are. They are tied in singles matches 2-2. They've basically traded every win back and forth, back and forth. Now, Goto had beaten Taichi in the first round of the New Japan Cup this year, so I think Taichi's going to get that win back from Goto here. Beating him on this first night would be awesome. I always love Taichi, I always love Goto. Their matches are fun. Usually, if they keep the interference down to a minimum, which I think they will here. And their styles are very complementary to each other. Obviously, Taichi being a Tosha Kawada descendant, he knows how to bring it and bring the kind of classic Japanese pro wrestling. It's kind of crazy calling that classic now, just because there's a lot of guys that aren't doing that. To where what was making really Japanese pro wrestling at its height, and with what they were doing in All Japan and New Japan in the early 90s and mid 90s, even just throughout that whole entire decade, even their 2000s of Pro Wrestling Noah. Just a much different New Japan than what it was, 7-8 years ago. But yeah, I mean, that should be a very fun match. In the main event, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada. This would be their 15th singles match against each other, which is the most of any pairing you'll see in this G1. The record they have, 6-5-3. 6 wins for Kazuchika Okada, 5 for Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the 3 draws. Their G1 record against each other is 1-0-3. Of course, Okada having that win when they were in Dallas for the G1 Climax. Very, very awesome there, that match, and that kind of to break the streak of the ties. This is also the first time that both men have been in the Block B at the same time, so that's pretty fun. This match, it's I don't care what time it is. I don't care if it's 2021. I don't care if it's 2026 or if it's 2016, 2018. Tanahashi and Okada in a singles match. To me, it's always I'm ready. I'm locked in. This is Tanahashi as of late. Okada's had the best of him, and obviously Tanahashi kind of dominated the early part of the rivalry, obviously, because Okada just coming off of excursion and shockingly upsets him to win the IWGP Heavyweight title. But those early years Tanahashi dominated. Now the kind of the later years, as Tanahashi's getting out of his prime, Okada has been winning. But I think this is the perfect time to flip the switch there and have Tanahashi beat him and make it 1-1-3 and to make it 6-6-3 in their singles matches. I mean, if there's ever a rivalry that should be like perfect kind of 50-50 kind of booking, it's definitely this. Like, they are, by many people's standards, the best, greatest rivalry that there's ever been, especially in Japanese pro wrestling. Which there's been some fucking great ones too. There's obviously Kobashi and Kobashi Masawa Kawada. We can, Kinta and Marufuji. We can go through the list there, but Tanahashi and Okada, it's unlike really anything, at least comparing those three there, because of how different they were. Kind of taking what some of the Masawa Kobashi stuff was, but a little bit different, because like Kobashi obviously took a while for him to beat him in a big moment, but Okada beats him in one of the biggest matches of his career, and like the second, third time they ever faced each other. Like, it's crazy to think about. And this rivalry, I think, will benefit with the Tanahashi win. And I think, Tanahashi being the U.S. champion, sure, you could have Okada beat him and they could have a U.S. title match in the States somewhere down the line. Sure. But I think having Tanahashi winning here and then you do the U.S. match. Because I think they want to do that. After doing it in Dallas, would bet, I wouldn't say guarantee, but I would bet they do that U.S. title match. Tanashi and Okada in the States. It just makes too much sense for them not to do it. As the next night, Block A, we're going to Tokyo here. As it's Toru Yano and Grado kicking it off. You could go either way. You could have another Yano upset, but I think back-to-back upsets would be a little too much. Depends on if Kinta beats him the first night. Watch out for the upset here against Grado Khan. This would be an intriguing match. To see Grado Khan, just a goofy fucking character that makes really no goddamn sense, compared to kind of everybody else in New Japan. And he's very much in a league of its own as far as how out there his gimmick is. And throwing Toru Yano in there in the mix in a singles match, God only knows what that match is going to produce. I'm assuming Khan's going to get that win. Starting off hot, the biggest thing I think is to establish the United Empire in this G1. Obviously, Ospreay's not there, so you want to still make them look strong and make them look like they're a very viable threat. So booking them strong early on would make a lot of sense to me. As Kinta and Yujiro, the next match, we got some Bullet Club. Well, Yujiro, joining Evil and joining what Dick Togo and Evil are doing with the House of Torture with Sho. Yeah, I mean, he's Yujiro, obviously. We'll talk about Yujiro for a little bit here. Here he is in a G1. Obviously, when COVID hit last year, and he had to do the New Japan Cup, and they did like the mini story with Okada. That was fucking wild, and definitely shouldn't have happened under any circumstances other than COVID's happening, and we can't have that many people. So to have him in this G1, figured it was going to happen. I figured it was going to be either him or Fale or even both. And to have him in this block, there is one match I'm very much looking forward to seeing. I'm sure you can understand which one that is, probably. And that's if you know the history between the two men. But this Kinta Yujiro match, you have now with him joining kind of the House of Torture, which is it a subgroup of Bullet Club, or are they going to actually split? That's another thing to look for in this G1, which is that a story that most people care about? No, no one should really care about what. Because like the best guy in that fucking stable is Sho, and like it's just like you're gonna have Evil and then Yujiro. If you want to just have a boring ass product, yeah, put them together. Sure, fine, good idea. Then you throw Sho in there, and it's like, granted, I will say this: I thought he was just gonna join the United Empire because that was the only spot. So at least they did something kind of out of nowhere. But even then, goddamn, like that is quite the pairing, because Sho is just the guy who's has got to bring his worker boots with him and have a hell of a match to make anything work from House of Torture, which obviously he can't, because there's Yujiro and Evil in the match too, so it's kind of now negated anything that Sho can do because of that pairing. Just kinda sucks, but here we are. That's fucking ghetto for you. As Kinta should win this, no problem. Naito and Tangaloa, another match that Naito should probably win, no problem here. It's going to be his first points thanks to losing in the first night to Zack Saber Jr. Just a nice little bounce back match for him to get 2 points. Kodabushi, Tamarishi. So these two men, Bushi's never lost to him in the G1. He is 3-0 against him. Ishii's only win came from a 2014 Never Openweight title match. So that's pretty nuts thinking about that. So thinking how long it's been since Ishii's beaten Kodabushi, why not? Throw another win right there for Tamarishi. So we got 2 points there for Ishii, getting his first points on the board. It's a big upset. Well, I wouldn't say an upset. That's definitely not. That's not an upset. But still, it's a big win for Tamarishi, and that's a fun co-main event. They've always had great matches, some scary fucking matches. They beat the shit out of each other. We'll see what happens. Obviously, with what Bushi's been going through these past, really this month, and it's been tough. and it's been tough for him. And I think that I was very, very happy to see that playing into a factor of the MetLife Dome shows, to where they made the match a little shorter because of that. Hopefully they kind of do the same thing for him here. I don't think he should be going out there having 20, 25-minute matches all the time in this G1. Keep it short, 10, 15. Have him and Yano have, have Yano have the 5 to 10s, and then have Ibushi having the 15s and 10s, and you got Yujiro in there too with his matches. They shouldn't go long. Should be, really the co-main and main should have a lot of focus and should have a lot of time allowed to them. So I'm very much looking forward to it. But here in this case, maybe not so much. Maybe that focus should be on that main event. That's Zack Saber Jr. and Shingo Takagi. Match I'm very much looking forward to seeing. First time meeting. Very, very fun. And two guys that have completely different fucking styles, but I think will blend very well together. Because Zack is basically the size of a junior, but they just never put him in the junior division. And Shingo is a fucking hoss if he's thrown in the junior division. Shouldn't have been thrown in the junior division in the first place. I think with the Dragon Gate ties, they were just like, let's throw him in there with the junior. Because obviously that year he had just wrestled in the Champion Carnival. So, I mean, it was just kind of random that they just threw him down there. But obviously that was very short-lived. Rightfully so. He's fucking Shingo Takagi. He's one of the best guys in the world. Put him in your fucking heavyweight in your heavyweight division. Put up the fucking belt on him. And it's exactly what they've done. This is a great match, though. It's a great match to see just because it's a fresh match. Can't go wrong with that. And that should be a very, very fun match. I'm going with Shingo getting the win there. Especially with Zack beating, Naito the first night, coming here the second night, losing to him. Just makes sense. So at that point, obviously just 2 shows in, very, very early, but Shingo and Grado tied for first, and then got a lot of people tied for second, then Yujiro Tangaloa with 0 points. So the next night, the second night for Block B, Tama Tonga, Chase Owens. So we got Bullet Club. If they have the same formula like the Tai Chi Taka Best Super Juniors match, that was just 5 minutes of them circling, and the little announcer just 5 minutes into the match, and the fucking pop from the crowd. That's great. Like, you can get away with that. I think that's fine here. Just hopefully Tama Tonga wins. I wouldn't be surprised if Chase Owens wins. I'm just, because he's a piece of shit. So let's get that ball rolling to the next match. Yoshiyashi and Jeff Cobb. Yeah, I mean, this is an easy win for Jeff Cobb. Again, much like Grado Khan, have those guys start off hot and strong. Having 4 points, 6 points even in the first 3 nights if you want. Get those wins out of the way now, and that way some bigger names could beat them, but maybe they can upset 1 or 2 and finish with 8 or 10 even. That's what I'm hoping for there. As Sanada and Tai Chi. This could go either way. This is a tough one to pick. I think Sanada matches, for some reason, it's hard to really pinpoint, because at times I'm just like, are they going to put him in the fucking, I didn't think, from what I remember of my predictions last year, the G1, I don't think I had him winning his block. He's just someone that I enjoy his work. But I don't know if Goto likes him, if he doesn't like him, because it just always felt like he was like third banana in LIJ, especially when Evil was like doing his thing too. He was like fourth banana sometimes, it felt like, especially when Evil was beating like Okada in the G1s and whatnot. But at least now, he should be, second or third banana to Hiromu, if that's the case. But, he's a guy that is there's something missing, it sucks, because I don't know what it is that he's missing, but he's just missing it. Maybe it'd be a change of scenery, because he was someone I was very, very excited for, and he's had some great fucking matches. Some great matches in New Japan. Some different matches, too, which is awesome, and that's why I enjoy his work, because he's a lot different compared to everybody else. Like, his matches with Zack, obviously, are great. Him and Okada usually have good stuff, and I always wish him and Tanashi had better matches, because the story is there between those two, but I always kind of feel like they kind of don't hit that level that I want them to. They're just kind of right just below it, though. They're close. They're good matches, but I want them to be fucking, like, incredible stuff. Like, match of the year type stuff, but it just, don't think it can happen. But with these two, in Sanada and Tai Chi, except for in the call, I went with Sanada, so he can have 4 points, because I think really, because of they're doing Sonata and Evil at that final night. I think they're either going to go into that match the same amount of points, or they're going to leave with the same amount of points, if that makes sense. And maybe one of the two, whether it's Sonata or Evil, will beat the other two, tie in points. Just got that feeling that obviously those two, because they were former partners and they were very much compared to each other, a lot of times I think that's always going to be what they're going to have. Just kind of the rivalry is just already there. It just makes sense to play up on that. So Goto and Tanahashi, man, the website, the New Japan US site had them kicking off the night, which I'm just gonna assume that's a fuck up because I don't think that should be it at all. Really could have been the main because of Evil being in it, but I understand it being here in the co-main. So Hiroki Goto and Hiroshi Tanahashi, they have the oldest singles match out of all the pairings that you'll see in the G1. Their first match together was a 47-second match during the Summer Struggle 2004 tour when Tanahashi beat Goto, because Goto was a fucking young lion at the point. As that's just very, very fun. Really, Tanahashi, there obviously early on when Goto was kind of getting his feet wet, Tanahashi usually beat him. Goto recently has, he beat him last year in the G1, but I don't see him winning here, especially with Tanahashi being a champion. I think he'll finish pretty strongly, so I think this is a tough start for Goto, being 0-2, but I think he can come back and make it 8-10 points, depending on where they want to put him. So that's just kind of, still early, so might as well get those early losses out of the way for somebody in this Block B. They have Kazuchika Okada and Evil in the main event. This is going to be their third singles match of the year. Yeah, I mean, it's a match, obviously, because it's Evil. Now, looking forward to it. Even though they've had some good G1 matches in the past, obviously a much different Evil now. Much boring style. They just completely ruined the character. But for this match here, I think Evil's going to win. I think Okada's going to have the story that he's going to lose his first two, maybe even first three, if they really want to push it. Loses his first two, losing to Tanahashi, losing to Evil, then he starts getting the wins. Because there's just, that's always the story that Goto likes telling, and I understand why that is, because it is a pretty compelling story, having the guy win it all after losing, Kenny Omega the year he won it. He lost to Yoshihashi, the first night, and it's stuff like that where you kind of forget about. It's like, oh yeah, he's fucking, like, even when, Tamarishi and Okada, 2000. Well, no, that wasn't when Okada won, but still, Ishii beat him. He just never got the title match, type of thing. But stuff like that, when you have, I don't know why I brought that up. I was just like, because I could never not talk about that match. The match is incredible. But with Okada and Evil, Evil has been losing kind of recently with Okada in their singles matches, though he did beat him to actually win the New Japan Cup last year. So that was kind of his last big win. Keep it going here. He beats him here. And that's kind of the story. That Evil can beat Okada at a New Japan Cup and at a G1. He's already established that already, but now this new version of Evil gets the win there. And Okada starts off 0-2. That's a tough start for him. But I think he'll manage. I think he'll be just fine. As now we're going to the Kobe World Hall show, the only event happening at the Kobe World Hall show. This September 26th show for Block A. There's Okan and Yujiro. Okan should kill him. Like, this should last 2 minutes. At the most. Like, they should really put over Okan here in a big, big way. Keep the wins coming. Make him a viable threat. Even though it's just fucking Yujiro, make it like he's not even in the same fucking league as him. Just to really establish that this character is a threat. Makes too much sense there. Yano and Tongaloa. I mean, if you had to have a worst match contender, it's definitely this. Like, it's either going to be this or Yano and Yujiro. Depending on how that one plays out. I think because of, it's just a bad. Even Yujiro, Tongaloa, like those three just are kind of interchanged as far as what's going to be the worst match of this G1. I think Tongaloa is going to beat him here. He's not gonna deal with that comedy shit. He's gonna kill him type of thing. Or Yano, it starts off comedy, but then Tanga Loa hits ape shit on him type of deal. If he can even hit Yano with it, I'm assuming he can, but you never really know. Just don't wanna. Oh, I don't know if Yano's gonna agree to that finish. I wouldn't if I was him. If I had the easiest and best job on the New Japan roster. I'm not taking that finish. Tanga Loa should win there. Just makes too much sense. Ishii and Kenta. They've had some fun matches. You know, Ishii's never beaten him. So I think it's perfect time to maybe do that. But we went with Kenta instead. Getting the win, keeping the streak going. So Kodabushi and Zack Saber Jr. in the co-main here. So the only time Zack's beaten him was in the New Japan Cup. Ibushi's 3-0 against him in the G1. Let's put the stop to that as well. So Zack Saber Jr. with a big G1 looking like, at least in my prediction, beating both Ibushi and Naito. Pretty fucking crazy. The main event, Shingo Takagi versus Tetsuya Naito. They've only had one match. Naito beat him 2 years ago. That was in Osaka. And Naito and Shingo, man, it just makes too much sense to have Naito beat him here. Just you kind of keep that story of him being the leader and him being better than Shingo, even though Shingo's the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. You could also have a moment where Shingo actually beats him. It's like, no, I'm the fucking top guy here, not you, bud. This is just an easy story to tell between those two. I thought their match should have been a little bit better. I was hoping for a little bit more spark and excitement from that match. Maybe it'll happen here. Shingo and Naito, I think that's going to be that's going to be the first time that Shingo's lost in a singles match in months, which is huge as well. So I think that's just a big, big moment to happen. And it just makes too much sense. So after 3 nights, Okan, I have him leading the block, which is pretty crazy. Got a lot of people tied for second with Naito, Zack, Kenta, and Shingo. But everybody but Yujiro with some points. Not bad. Not bad. As then we're going to Korakuen for the 29th and the 30th. It's Korakuen, Taichi, and Evil kicking off the show. I think Evil's going to get the win there. I would love nothing more than Taichi to beat him, but we know how that's going to happen. Sonata, Chase Owens. Hopefully Sonata gets the win there. I got a bad feeling about that one. Just with Chase Owens, you never really know. I feel like Ghetto's got a soft spot for him. But I think that's because, forget what Tort was. If it was the Tag League or something where they called him like short notice to come over and he took it. That was, they just were like, oh, he answered the fucking call type of thing. And if he wasn't a piece of shit, hey, good on him, but he's a piece of shit. Goto and Jeff Cobb. What a fun match. Fun match here. This could be, I think this will be the best match of this show. And it's in a weird spot, though, it not being the main, or not being like the co-main, or figured it wouldn't be the main with Okada and Yoshihashi, but still. Either way, you can have that one go. I wouldn't be mad, but with Goto coming in with no points, just figured give that one to Goto. As a Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tama Tonga. So funny enough, and weirdly enough, they've had one match before. It was when Tama Tonga beat him in the G1 in 2016. Which is very, very fun. I think Tanahashi's going to right that wrong and beat him here. That'd be wild, though, if Tama beat him. Would be very, very wild. Just with Tanahashi being the U.S. champ, I don't think they're going to be throwing that out there with Tama. Now, Okada and Yoshihashi. Obviously, these men have their history. With Okada's first match back from Excursion at Wrestle Kingdom against Yoshihashi. And they had their G1 Climax match 2018? With Okada winning there, and he busted out the original Rainmaker too. That was very, very fun. So this could go many different ways here. You could have Okada now, after losing 2 straight, it's going into the 3rd night. It's the wake-up call, and he beats Yoshihashi. You could go the other way. Let's say Okada does beat Tanahashi that first night. He loses the 2nd night. Now this 3rd night here, he's got Yoshihashi, and Yoshihashi actually fucking beats him in a huge-ass upset. Would be very, very fun from a story perspective. Think either way, story-wise, it makes sense, but for how I think it's going to go, I think Okada's going to beat him. And that's the story they're going to go with. But still very, very fun. As far as, those two, they got their history. Korakuen all for Block A now. Tamarishi, Tanga Loa. Kicking off the show. Could be very fun. I think that's a sleeper kind of match there. Their styles, I think, could mesh very well. Tonga Loa kind of has like potential. I think if this was like 6, 8, 10 years ago, and he actually kind of really, really developed, he could have been like a great like never open weight type of guy. But obviously now, I'd say just physically, he's not at his peak anymore. Obviously, if he's not getting great by the time he's been in the business now for this long, it ain't happening. I would say his ship has sailed. But this could be a fun match. If there's someone to pull out a good match out of Tonga Loa, Tamarishi's probably at the top of the list for the New Japan roster. I would say Okada being one, but Ishii probably being there at 2 or 3. Probably Shingo too. But that's a fun match, though. It's a match I'm intrigued by. I wouldn't say fun. Probably intrigued would probably be the better words I'd use. Zack Saber Jr., Grado Khan. So, Khan's been on a run here, just from my predictions. And Zack Saber Jr.'s been on a run here. So we got two guys that are kind of having a lot of momentum going into this match. What was Zack Saber Jr. there? Stopping Grado Khan, giving Zack his 6 points. Makes too much sense to have his, just... That's an intriguing matchup, because Grado Khan obviously very, very, very skilled on the mat. Obviously, so is Zack. But Grado Khan's a fucking monster compared to Zack Saber Jr. as far as size-wise and whatnot. So I don't know how it's going to look just from the eye test of that. But it's an intriguing match, though. It's an intriguing night. I think I'm very, very happy this is happening in Corkin, too. This is a fun night. This might be my favorite night. Just looking at it on the card here. Toru Yano, Kodabushi, they always have fun G1 matches. Kodabushi can just do the craziest athletic shit. But I don't know now. Now we might be, still dealing with, because that takes a while to get over what he went through. Maybe by the time this match happens, because this is going to be September 30th, so he'll probably be back to pretty much 100% by this point. Be very, very fun match, though. I'm going to go with Yano, getting the upset there. I think that's a fun match. That's a very, very fun match. Bushi, though, with 2 points, though, to end out that night. He's going to have to get the wheels turning for him if he wants to win this one. I just feel like with how he's done, just physically, health-wise, and how he's been, obviously being back-to-back G1 winners, he doesn't need to be at the top of the block, or he doesn't need to be in the finals or anything like that. Just keep him out of the finals and keep him out of even the top 2, Just, he doesn't need it at this point. He's a made man. It's Naito and Yujiro. Former partners. Fucking No Limit. What a team. Going one-on-one. Man, it's just so fun to think about. Yujiro's beaten him in every G1 match they've had. And they've had 3. The last one being in 2014. Man, just a long time coming, this match is. They're very, very fun. This is a very, very fun match. I'm very happy this is at Korakuen. I hope the crowd, gives it the energy I think it needs, because this is a fun match. With the history they've had. It'd be wild if Yujiro beats him, though, but I think it's time to have Naito beat him. It's fun. It's time. He is much different Tetsuya Naito, obviously, than what they went to in the early 2010s. But still, I would love them to play up the No Limit history there. Assuming they will, I'm assuming the crowd's going to be very much smart by that, being at Korakuen Hall. They'll know what the fuck's going on. It should be very, very fun, though. In the main event, Kinta and Shingo. Fun match. They've had their first singles match this year in the New Japan Cup. This can go either way. You could have Kinta beat him. You can have Shingo win. I went with Shingo getting the win there. That's a very fun match, though. Very intrigued by those two. Because they're, very much like, can work like juniors, but they're heavyweights. So you already got a fan out of me. I love that style. So, should be very, very fun. That's a fun night, though. Definitely probably my favorite as far as going into. Just so far from what I've seen, that's probably my favorite night. So, now we're going to October. Going to spooky season of the G1. As, we have kicking off Block B here with Jeff Cobb and Tama Tonga. This should be a layup for Jeff Cobb. Gets 6 points there. Just makes too much sense. Evil and Chase Owens. Hate both of them. This is probably another contender for the worst match of the G1. But I just think they're going to give Chase Owens the win here. I think they're going to give him the upset win. And have him beat Evil in just a shocking upset. And then also playing up the Bullet Club, House of Torture kind of split as well. maybe they'll actually split it here, with that match. Who knows? Yoshiyashi and Taichi, hoping for a Taichi win there. That'd be huge. As far as match goes, as far as how much I'm looking forward to it, it's on the scale. Kazuchika Okada, Hiroki Goto. This is their first match since their first singles match since 2016, which is pretty fucking crazy. Been a long time. I am intrigued by this, obviously, since it's been so long. And Goto's won 3 of their last 5, or 3 out of their 5 G1 matches, rather. This will be, a very fun match for Goto to win. Obviously, though, Kazuchika Okada needs some wins. Both guys need some wins. I think that kind of story going into that match would make a lot of sense. It would be very, very fun. I'm going to go with Okada getting the win there. It just makes too much sense. Then Tanashi and Sanada. This is going to be their 6th match, and they have traded wins in every match. Their story, I think, should have been so much more. Because Sanada's just all-time line Tanahashi, and Wrestle Kingdom 2, the video game. Or not Wrestle Kingdom 2, King of Costume 2, rather. The video game. Tanahashi's, attire is basically, what Sanada was rocking in, 2016, 2018. The all-black, kind of long ties. They just had the mohawk, too. It was just very, very much like if Sanada, and I just would have felt like they should have played up to that a little bit more, and I thought their style should have meshed more, but it just never really happened. They've had good matches, don't get me wrong, but they've never had that amazing match. I don't think it's going to happen here either. Either way, whoever wins, Sanada, Tanahashi, I'm cool with either. I went with Tanahashi, though, and going out this night, having Tanahashi leading the block with 8. Pretty wild. Sanada and Jeff Cobb with 6. Evil and Okada with 4, with Taichi as well. And then everybody else getting points. So at this point, the only person that doesn't have any points is Yujiro. As we're going on to the 3rd, as we have Grado and Kinta. Grado or Kinta, either way. I'm surprised this is open up the show. Definitely should have been Tongalo and Yujiro. This should be a fun match, though, if they would have gave it time. I don't know what they're going to do with this. I think because of where this match is placed, I think Kenta's going to get the win there. Really no problem. Tongalo and Yujiro. This could go either way. Don't care about it at all. Hopefully the right... it just really doesn't matter in that point of view. It's probably going to be the worst match of the tournament. Yano and Naito. Obviously, those two. The last time Yano beat him was 2019, the G1. It was the night that kicked off Block B. They've had 10 singles matches, which is pretty crazy to think about. And almost all of them have been in the G1. I think there's been maybe 1 cup match. Pretty nuts, though. There's a guy in Tetsuya Naito who's changed so much throughout that time, whereas Yano's kind of been the same. But sometimes he brings out the blonde, great bash heels era of Yano, sometimes sporadically, but usually, it's comedy time. Upset here with Naito. Might as well, you can always count on a Yano upset here and again. Might as well have it be him with Naito there. And just because of where it's placed at, too, it's kind of middle of the G1, and it's kind of actually towards more of the end of the G1 now at this point. But, yeah, just makes too much sense there. It's Tamarishi and Zack Saber Jr. Man, they haven't really had... Because I think their styles are so different. You have a tall, long, lengthy submission style guy, and then you have a short, stump powerhouse of Tamarishi. Just physically, they don't mesh. It's quite odd. But I think Zack Saber Jr. is actually going to get the win here, which is a huge G1 for Zack Saber Jr. I'm going all in on Zack having a big G1. I don't know how much that's going to be true. But just there's a lot of times I'm just like, let's give him a win here and let's give him a win there. Just because he's the lone, him and Taichi, they're the lone backers of Suzuki Gun. Got to put him over strong. Might as well, let's fuck it. And then Kodabushi and Shingo, the main event. Anytime those two have matches together, it's fucking awesome. Kodabushi, though, I think is gonna get the win there. He's having a pretty shit G1 at this point, having with 4 points at this point. Let's give him a win. Let's give him a win. That'd be huge. Huge for him, and then they could have the title match later on. as well, which would be awesome. So yeah, so I mean, right now Shingo's lost twice, and it's to Naito and Ibushi who will have 4 and 6 points. Just makes too much sense from that perspective. Score and all for Block B here, as Tanashi Chase Owens. Very, very nervous about that. I hope Chase Owens does not beat him. That would suck. As Evil Tamatanga. Not looking forward to that one. Evil's probably going to get the win there. Tai Chi Jeff Cobb. Fun match. Very, very fun match. One with Tai Chi here. So they both have 6 after that night. Goto and Yoshihashi. Chaos guys. This could really go either way if you really wanted to put it. But just at that point, Goto was going in with 2 points, as was Yoshihashi. So went with Goto for 4. Kazuchika Okada and Sanada. Sanada's only win against him came from that fantastic G1 match 2 years ago. Every other time has been Kazuchika Okada. I think that trend continues here. And Sanada is going to have 6 points, as is Kazuchika Okada. And this has really been Tanahashi's G1 now to lose. Which, that's an interesting story. You know, that Tanahashi's been kind of all over the place. And years past where I'm just like, he might do well. He ended up having the most points ever. And then there's times I'm just like, this will be the time where he finally finishes with like 8 points and he doesn't. I'm just going to go ahead and go with the side of caution and saying he's going to finish with like 10, just might as well. The next night in Hiroshima, we got Block A, Kodabushi Tangaloa. As Kodabushi going to win that one as well after beating Shingo. It just makes too much sense. Zack Saber Jr. and Yujiro Takahashi threw Yujiro a bone there. It's like, Zack's winning enough. Let's throw him a bone. Let's give Yujiro his first win and have him beat Zack Saber Jr. It's just very, very funny, just the thought of that. And I think that sums up New Japan Pro Wrestling perfectly, having Yujiro beat him. Like, he is a guy who's so talented, and Zack Saber Jr. can do so many great shit, and is just kind of smart, too, with how they book him as well, because here's a guy who can put you in any type of hold he can, but he can't do well with strikes, and I think that's just such a great, just from a character's perspective, and physically, it just makes too much sense. Then you have Yujiro, who just can't do shit, and to have him be one of the most least technical guys, doesn't know, the old adage of doesn't know a wrist watch from a wrist lock, and having him beat Zack Sabre Jr. just pure comedy. Toru Yano and Shingo getting the win there. We don't need Yano beating the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, not at this time. He did it with Kenny. You have that, let's move on. Ishii and Grado Khan. This could go either way. Went with Grado Khan with a huge win. He could either finish with 6 points or 8 points. We're gonna go with 8. That's what I'm going with there. With him beating Ishii. I think Ishii could use this win though at the same time, so it's very tough. But that's a fun match though. I'm very much looking forward to that match. That's a great Okan match that I think is just very intriguing. And the Naito and Kinta, obviously they've had their history. Kinta beat him last year, and I think Kinta's going to beat him again this year with a huge win. This could go either way as well. You can go Naito, you can go Kinta. Either way, I went with Kinta. The next night for Block B, we're getting to the end here, as we got Yoshihashi Tamatanga. I give that one to Yoshihashi there. Goto and Chase Owens. I feel like that's a layup for Goto. So just like that, Goto there for a while didn't have any points. Now he's got 6. Just makes too much sense. Sanada and Jeff Cobb. Makes too much sense for Sanada to get the win there. This could go. You could have Jeff Cobb get a win here, which I would be in favor for. But I just think Sanada's going to finish pretty high, and we're getting towards the end, so got to throw him a win there. Tanashi and Evil. Makes too much sense for have Evil to get the win there. The Evil needs some big wins. And he beat him last year in the G1. And if he beats him here, they'll be 3-3 in their singles matches. So that just makes too much sense. Kazuchika Okada and Tai Chi in the main event. Very much looking forward to that, but Tai Chi's never beaten him. Would it be awesome if he does? Absolutely. Just from a Tai Chi fan perspective. But I don't think it's going to happen here. It's not the time, not the place for it. Let's go on to the next night in Osaka here. So, October 9th, Zack Sabre Jr. and Kinta. Fun match here. This should not be the opener, but it's listed as the opener. I'm going to take their word for it. As a, fun match there. Very, very fun match. Going to give that one to Kinta, though. As Kinta's going to have 10 points now. Very huge there. As Yujiro and Toru Yano. this could go either way. Went with Yujiro. Wow, having 4 points. So Yano with 6. Shingo and Tongaloa. Layup for fucking Shingo there. That should honestly kick off the night, but yeah, you want to protect the champion too at the same time. As Ibushi and Grado Khan, another great fun match for Grado Khan to have. This is an easy win for Ibushi though, I think. Grado Khan's at the point he's got 8, doesn't need any more. Give it to Ibushi there. As Ishii and Naito, weirdly enough, I've never really enjoyed their matches. I thought they've had good matches, but not like great, fantastic stuff. And I went with Naito there. Poor Ishii's got 4 points going into this final, into the couple of last nights here. Hopefully he can turn it around to maybe finish with 8 or 6. I want him to finish with like 10 every time because I just feel like he's one of the greatest G1 he's just one of the greatest G1 wrestlers like of all time. He's had so many great G1 matches. But yeah, I know where Goto stands with him. I know he's going to finish with like 6 or 8. And yeah, I mean, that's fun night though. There's some intriguing matches with the Ibushi, Grado Khan, and then Zack, Saber Jr. and Kinta. But on to the next night here. To Block B, Taichi Tamatanga. This could go either way. Just felt like Tom at that point only having 2 points. Give him 1 there with Taichi. So now he's going to get 4. Yoshiyashi and Sonata. Again, I feel like Sonata is going to finish pretty strong with like 10 plus points. So gives him a win over Yoshiyashi there. He's going to finish. Right now he's at 10. Okada and Chase Owens. Easy win for Okada. He's got 10. And Goto and Evil. Evil at this point could tie with the rest of them here, but went with Goto getting the win over Evil to have him have 8, and Tanashi and Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb getting the huge win there. Jeff Cobb needs a big win, and I would love to see this match happen at a U.S. title match between Cobb and Tanahashi. I would love to see Cobb actually beat him. Like, that's a huge win for Cobb to not only beat him here, but also beat him for that title. Maybe they won't do that, though. That's a little too soon. I think they want to do Tanahashi, like I said, Tanahashi Okada in the U.S. for the U.S. title. Just feel like that's something they're looking for. And I think they want to have a big-time match. They had one, but I think they want Tanahashi with an actual, like, big name. And I think they want Tanahashi in AEW at some point. So maybe, who knows what they'll do there. But I would just personally would love to see Cobb have something very, very big there. But it's crazy. That's a first-time meeting, though, too, at the same time between Tanahashi and Jeff Cobb. And have Cobb beat him would be very, very huge. The next night, just to kind of, I guess we can recap what's going on with this Block B so far. So we got a 3-way tie for first with Okada, Tanahashi, and Sonata, and Evil, Goto, Cobb with 8. So Goto just came on very, very strong. All of a sudden had 8 points like that. Awesome. I actually really enjoy. I'm not gonna be like, if Goto does this, it'd be very, very fun. But I think that just makes so much sense from a story perspective how they're gonna do Block B there. As then we got this night for Block A, Tamarishi, Yujiro Takahashi. Ishii's gonna get the win there. That makes just too much sense. He's got to get some wins. Kinta and Tongaloa, again, too much sense for Kinta. Yano, Zack Saber Jr. It's always fun when Yano upsets, a guy like Zack Saber Jr. Him finishing with like 8 points might be a little too high. I think he might finish with like 6 instead, and so maybe just he'll have one more. Maybe he won't beat like a Naito or Bushi instead. But to have him have 3 wins, and their 3 wins, or having them have 4 wins, and they're all like against like big names is pretty fun. But then we're gonna have Shingo and Grado Khan. What a fun match! I think this is gonna be very much can Grado Khan? He's gonna have some very much like moments of having. Like, is this guy going to be a top-level guy, or is he just not going to be able to get out of that kind of shitty gimmick and whatnot? Because if they change it up, and he has some great matches, I think he can really be a force for New Japan. Like, he's so good, and he's so different, and if they could just change him slightly, I just think he needs a slight change with some of his stuff and some of his moveset, but other than that, I think he can be someone that could be a nice piece for New Japan, and we're gonna really have a good idea how well of a piece he's gonna fit in New Japan with this G1, because he's got a lot of great guys. And if you're having shit matches with bad guys, or if you're gonna have bad matches with great guys, rather, there's fucking dyslexia popping up, you're gonna have it's not gonna look good on your resume, especially in that block. You got Kenta, Ishii, Shingo, Naito, Ibushi, and Zack Saber Jr. Like, that's all guys you should be having good matches with, especially in Grado Khan's case. But yeah, I mean, that's a fun co-main. Shingo getting the win there, obviously, and Kodabushi, Naito. Obviously, those two men. I would say that's probably Naito, besides Okada, probably his like best rival. They just fucking kill each other, and this could go either way. I went with Naito getting the win so we can have his 10 points there. And I mean, for Block A, you got some fun. You got a fun story. Is Kinta gonna be in that main part? Maybe not. You know, maybe they won't have him in. But I just think because of Ibushi's still kind of, dealing with his problems. You have Naito that doesn't really need to be in the main event scene at this point. Just for, I just feel like with him, he's kind of like in the same role like Okada was, where it's just like he's so awesome, you don't need him to be at the top of the G1. It's just not really necessary. Plus, I just don't think he has a lot of great G1 matches too to begin with. He has some great finals, but he doesn't really have, I think, like tremendous like actual block matches compared to some of these other guys. And also, I just think Kenta needs something. Like, he needs something huge for him. And I felt like they were going to give him a very big 2021, thinking that Kova was going to be back. Kova was going to be not much of a threat compared to what it is. But that's just kind of the way she goes. I think this would be a great moment for him, though, to really have a top type of G1 type of performance. Hopefully, fingers, crossed there. But, all in all, very fun night, with Ibushi and Naito and Shingo and Grado Khan and even Zack, Saber Jr. and Toru Yano. Fun stuff there. So we're getting to the, almost to the end here. We got our last 3 block nights as Block B. We got Taichi Chase Owens. Felt like they were going to give Chase Owens an upset win there. Breaks my heart, but it's the way she goes. Goto Sanada. This could go either way. One with Sanada, though, with 12 points there. Tanashi Yoshihashi went with the huge upset with Yoshihashi. Just felt like we kind of gave Tanashi a little bit more wins than he really needed at that point. And he's going to... Usually he kind of starts off slow, but we're going to have him start off fast and end slow. Have him lose a couple of matches to end out the block. And then Jeff Cobb and Evil. I would love nothing more than for Jeff Cobb to beat him. I just don't think Ghetto's going to go with that. Sadly, I think Evil's going to get the win there. That sucks. And Okada and Tama Tonga. Yeah, I mean, Okada's going to get the win there. I'm a little nervous because that's in the main event. Maybe they'll be like, let's put Tama Tonga over, but I just don't see it happening. There and then, so to go into that final night that's happening in Budokan for Block B, Okada's got 12, Sanada's got 12, and Evil's got 12. Now, the story, obviously, Tanahashi wins, that changes some things. But he's going to be basically outside the perspective. He'll basically finish like 4th. This story is between Sanada and Evil and Okada. Now, Sanada and Evil, they face each other. So you will either have Evil beating him, and if Okada loses to Jeff Cobb, which is who they're facing, which I think that's going to be the main event. It could be Sanada Evil in the main event. Either way, we don't exactly know what's going to be the main event. We just kind of have an understanding that it's going to be probably one or the other there. A lot of different scenarios on how that's going to play out. But I think that's your top 3 for sure. Just the stories that makes too much sense and how they intertwine between the 3. So the one of the last nights for Block A, not the last night, but one of, we got in Yokohama Budokan, which is where night 16 of last year's G1 happened. Obviously one of the newer structured venues that they've built that got completed last year. Or, last year. And I was thinking it was 2 years ago. Maybe it was 2019. I don't know why. I was thinking 2019, 2020, one or the other. Ishii and Yano, they have great chemistry. They have great matches. That should be a lot of fun. They always bring out the best. Ishii usually brings out the best as far as, like, worker boots, Yano. They have some fun matches. Kickoff that night, too, should be very, very fun. Zack Saber Jr., Tonga Loa. Gonna give that one to Zack Saber Jr. That one, again, I think Zack should finish with like 10 points. Just makes too much sense there, especially with his block he's in. Guys like Tonga Loa, Yano, and Yujiro. I mean, that's just, there's potentially 6 points just right there. Then you have Okan too, which depending on if he beats him or not, type of thing. So Shingo and Yujiro, definitely Shingo's winning that one. That would definitely be a shock if he lost it. And then you have Naito, Okan. Fun match. And I gave that one to Great Okan. I don't think that's going to happen. That's kind of crazy. That's a crazy upset. I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I don't think he's going to beat him. I think I was just gut being like, let's make a fucking star. But the rocket ship to Great Okan with a huge win over Naito. I think Naito's going to win that one, because then that story's a lot different. Because now you have Shingo going in with 14 and Naito and Kinta with 12. That story makes much more sense than what we're going to see here with Ibushi and Kinta. With Ibushi getting the win there. Yeah, I think that just makes... I'll just kind of see if I change that right now to Naito. And just that story. How that is going to play out. Because, yeah. Oh, yeah. So that is how... That is the final night of Block A. I'm an idiot. So, yeah. There you go. So, kind of a weird finish for Block A because of how it's going to play out. Yeah, because it's down to Ibushi playing the spoiler role for Kinta, because obviously Kinta beating Shingo. If Ibushi, loses there, Kinta goes on to the finals, but Ibushi beats him, and that's kind of what the story is. But still, I think that's a fun, so at least Naito finishes with 12. That makes a lot more sense. Great Okan still having it. Still finishes with 8. Ishii and Yano with 8. I think that just makes a lot of sense there. I wouldn't be surprised if Yujiro finishes with 2 points or even 0 points. So maybe that will skew some of the points as well. Bushi with 10. He might finish with 12 type of thing. But yeah, I think Shingo's going to win this block. I think that's the right decision. And then for the last night here in Budokan, for Block B, so I'm going to try to not spoil what I have for the rest of this. Yoshihashi, Chase Owens. You can go with Yoshihashi, go with Chase Owens. I just gave it to Chase Owens because I just feel like Geto's going to have him finish with 6, and Yoshihashi with 6. Goto, Tamatanga. Goto getting the win there, so Tamatanga's going to finish with 4. Makes too much sense there, and Goto finishes with 10. So finish is pretty strong for him. Tanashi and Taichi. Now, obviously, Taichi's beaten him in the past, and he's had that one-upspin over him. I just feel like that'd be a perfect time to win there. You could go with Tanashi too, getting the win, and him finishing with 12. Either way, gave it to Taichi instead though, so Taichi could finish with 8. Either way, makes sense. Sonata and Evil. So again, depending on how this plays out, you could have Okada, Jeff Cobb as the co-main, or Sonata and Evil as the main. Could go either way. With really, I think they'll do... I wouldn't be surprised if Sonata Evil's the main. Wouldn't be surprised, but I just feel like Okada, Jeff Cobb should be the main, and it should be the better match. I would have loved to see Jeff Cobb get the win here, but just the way they placed it at the last night, and I think Okada's going to win this block. You had to have him win, type of thing. You could have had Sonata or Evil. You could have Sonata beat Evil to where he plays a spoiler for Evil, but Okada still, advances. You could have went with that story, which I think is probably what they're going to go with. To be honest, I think Cobb should beat him in the co-main and then Sonata Evil, with Evil having the tiebreaker win and having the chance to tie Okada to, go on to have 14 points in the win. Sonata plays a spoiler role instead. So let's just go ahead and flip this around here. We'll just go ahead, do a little flip. Hopefully nothing gets fucked there. I think all the points got fucked. So we'll just go ahead and change all that, and we'll just do it the old-fashioned way here. We'll just like this. Because I think that just makes too much sense from, everybody's perspective there. And then we'll just... little Jeff Cobb. Oh, there we go. We're just going on the fly here. Sometimes you just gotta rethink everything. So yeah, we'll give it to Cobb. And then we'll give it to Sonata. And we're gonna change to where Sonata's not gonna finish with 14, obviously. He'll finish with 10 or 12. just because it just let's see. Well, let's go through just kind of one by one, just being like who he could be. Let's give it to Jeff Cobb instead. So Cobb is now gonna finish. Okay, no, maybe not. Cobb's gonna finish with 12. That's kind of the funny thing sometimes is you gotta really plan out all this shit to make sure it works. So let's yeah. So we still want to do that. So we're looking for the Sonata when not there, obviously, and then obviously Okada beating Goto. We're gonna keep. Oh boy, this is. We'll give it to Tai Chi instead. So now what are we looking at? So now they'll finish with 12, but Okada's gonna have the tiebreaker. I mean, pretty fair. I think that's a fun way of going about it. And yeah, I mean it's an interesting way, but it's still because you also plays into the main event as well. Either way, either the first way I had it or that way I just changed it is going to be how it happens. So now, for this here, we have our winners: Block A, Shingo; Block B, Okada. Runner-up, Kinta and Evil. Well, I guess it's going to be Sonata now because of how we changed that, so we'll just go ahead and do that. There we go. So the last time Okada won a block was 2014. If Okada wins, which I think he will, he then ties Tanashi and Tenzan for the second most G1s with 3. If you don't count Inoki's wins before the G1 Climax name change, then of course it'd be third. They would all be tied for third because it'd be Inoki, Chono, and then Tanashi, Tenzan, and Okada. But, you know, for this perspective, there you go. So, yeah, I mean, this is... I think it's a matter of... I just feel like that's what they're going to go with. Because of the 3 nights. Because Okada's had some great matches at Wrestle Kingdom the past couple of years. And because it's just been so long, I think Okada's going to get the win. Either way, they could have Shingo beat him. And Shingo becomes the third person to ever be the G1... to win the G1 while also being the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Or you have Okada winning it for the first time since 2014. Which is, you know, awesome. Very, very awesome. There, as, why am I thinking, oh no, yeah, obviously 2012, 2014, that's right. You know, him and Carl Anderson and him and Nakamura. Oh, yeah, I mean, it just makes too much sense. I feel like out of anybody from Block A that's going to win, it's just got to be Shingo. It's just, the story is there to have a champion make it all the way to the finals. You could have Okada win, like I did, and I think that's what they're going to go with. Or you could have Shingo beating him. Either way, I think the story plays. And all in all, I mean, obviously, they've had just great matches in their recent history they've had. And what a great G1 Climax finals that is. I mean, that's awesome. That is an awesome, awesome match. As thank you all for sitting here for this hour and 20 minutes or so, depending on how long I wrap it up here. As, man, you know, it's always fun going through the G1, and it's always fun watching, always fun going through the previews and whatnot. But I think as a whole, this was a hell of a show. Or I think this is going to be a weird G1, where I think there's going to be moments where people are going to want to tune in and people are going to want to talk about it. But I just feel like New Japan is just not in the psyche right now of a lot of the Western fans, obviously, because AEW is on fire. And the people that were kind of watching New Japan, I think, throughout the 2010s, they were there because it was the best product in the world, not because they were Japanese Pro Wrestling fans. But now that there is, you know, the best product in the world is happening in the States, I think all those fans just jumped ship. Because they're, you know, who needs actual fans of products who just follow what's going on, what's great. Fair fucks to them, but I'm just saying. I think that's what's going on with, I think, how people are viewing New Japan right now in the West. Just my opinion. And also, too, there's a lot of shitty things like Evil and whatnot. There's still some shit out there. But I think a lot of it is also just the combination of how great AEW is doing. So, thank you all for listening, watching this prediction here and this preview. Running through the G1, as I'll catch you guys as far as New Japan goes after it happens, or at least until the finals when we preview that. So yeah, we'll catch you guys then. Take care, everyone.